The Nintendo Switch has only been on the market for about 7 months now, not even a full year now, and the Nintendo Switch is killing it when it comes to sales. And you can see the first year of sales and the first year of games on the Nintendo Switch is absolutely fantastic. They're really killing it out of the park, from games like Breath of the Wild to games like Mario Kart 8, Splatoon 2, and then we got upcoming games which are going to be phenomenal as well. We got the upcoming Super Mario Odyssey, which everyone knows is going to be a flat out fantastic game. And then going from that, we also got an RPG called Xenoblade 2. The Xenoblade 2 sequel to the original Xenoblade is coming out on the Switch 2 this holiday. So you can see Nintendo is killing it, and they're really throwing everything they can into this basket for the Nintendo Switch. That's also due to the fact that the Nintendo Switch is selling like hotcakes, and everyone loves the hybrid console. Now the great news is that the fact that we just got announced a lot of third-party games for the Nintendo Switch. So if you think the Nintendo Switch is not home to third-party games, well, think again. We are getting third-party games. Now I have this belief that the Nintendo Switch is still not going to be home to third-party support. If you're looking for true third-party support, you're always going to look elsewhere besides Nintendo consoles. No matter what Nintendo console comes out on the market, Nintendo's never going to be the place for third-party games, and we're never going to get all the third-party games, and we're never going to get the best of the best third-party games. But it is good that we are getting these third-party games on the Nintendo Switch, because before, back on the Wii U, we weren't really getting too many third-party games, and it was just kind of a disaster. So now people can't say the Switch doesn't have third-party games. They announced a whole bunch of third-party games for the Nintendo Switch. For instance, we are getting, of course, the Skyrim. Skyrim is an old game by now. I think it came out in around 2011, but even for a game that's about 6-7 years old at this point, it's a phenomenal RPG. Actually, a lot of people regard it as one of the best open world RPGs, which is absolutely fantastic that we are getting a meaty Destiny game, Skyrim, which is absolutely fantastic. And that's very cool that you can actually play this on the Nintendo Switch. But it continues on after that. We also got Rockstar's LA Noire, and that's good news too. Does that mean that we're gonna get Red Dead Redemption 2 on the Switch, or does that mean we're getting Grand Theft Auto 5 or Grand Theft Auto 6, whatever? Or are we gonna get those on the Nintendo Switch? Or we also maybe not get those new games, but could we get a port of an older Grand Theft Auto game? Because let's face it, if Rockstar is willing to port LA Noire, which is again a last generation game, it is good news that people have faith in the Nintendo Switch. And then another game that we are getting on the Nintendo Switch is going to be Doom. Sure, Doom came out last year, but Doom is still a phenomenal first person shooter, and right now we don't have any first person shooters. We do have Splatoon 2, however, Splatoon 2 is a third person shooter. It's not a first person shooter. So Doom will be the first first-person shooter to come out on the Switch, and that's a pretty meaty experience if you talk about it. And if this game can get up and running on the Switch, that's absolutely fantastic news. So you can see that it looks like companies really do have faith in the Nintendo Switch, and maybe if Doom sells well, we might get games like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Overwatch. Who really knows the potential of the Switch? But that's absolutely good news. And also, I actually think that third-party games are actually going to strive on the Nintendo Switch. I might say this now. It is a bold statement to say that third-party games are going to strive on the Switch. And then a year from now, we can completely see all these third-party games not doing so hot on the Switch. It's all up to the community. As long as the community really cares about third-party support on the Nintendo Switch, I think the Nintendo Switch is going to do great when it comes to third-party sales. I think there's two reasons why the Nintendo Switch, compared to other Nintendo consoles, will have a better chance of succeeding with third-party support. Let me explain why the Nintendo Switch has a very good chance of having good third-party support. We all know Nintendo consoles ever since the Wii. I'm going to say since the Wii because if you did not know, Nintendo used to be about power, believe it or not, before the Wii. If you looked at the Wii and if you looked at prior systems before the Wii, then you may think elsewise, but that's not the case. Nintendo used to care. Specifically, if you look at like the Nintendo 64 and the older generations, they really made a big deal about like blast processing, the 64 bits and everything like that. They really did make a big deal about the power and how the graphics, but since the Wii, they stopped caring about it. So you might say to yourself, yes, you are going to be getting inferior games if you were to get the same game, like for instance Doom or the new Wolfenstein, because Wolfenstein's coming to the Switch as well. It's going to come a little bit later than the actual Wolfenstein release date on other consoles, so it is coming a little bit later than them, but it is coming to the Switch. And you may be saying to yourself, aren't these games going to be less graphically demanding? Aren't they going to be a little bit watered down? That is true. They are going to be watered down if you think about it. But the thing is with these games, and the reason why I think third-party games are going to strive on the Switch is because unlike past consoles that Nintendo made, you would get a third-party game on their current generation game, and it would be inferior to like the other current gen consoles or even PC. And the problem is you weren't really getting anything for your money. You're pretty much getting a watered down port of a third-party game, and it was inferior. There's no way, no but about it. But here, even though you are getting a third-party game that's going to be watered down in terms of like the experience, in terms of like the graphics, you're not getting the same graphical experience. It's not going to be that much watered down, I don't believe, for most games, and the frame rates may be cut in half. But the good news is here, I think the reason why I have a strong feeling that third-party games are going to strive on the Switch is because the Switch has one thing the other consoles don't have. It does have portability, and that would all depend on how much you care about portability. But taking games like Skyrim, Doom, Wolfenstein, NBA 2K18, FIFA, all these big AAA third-party games on the go is absolutely fantastic. Sure, the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X versions of these games will look way better if you think about it. But can you take those versions on the go? Nope, you cannot take these versions on the go. So I think that is one reason why the Nintendo Switch third-party games are actually going to sell really good on the Switch. They still probably won't outsell their other console counterparts, PS4, Xbox One, and the PC. I don't think they're going to outsell those systems, but it is nice, and I do think that's going to give them the edge to make this a really good home for third-party games. So I think for the first time in a very long time, I can't remember the first time or the last time that Nintendo really had good third-party support and people cared about third-party support, but I feel like this is one time that third-party support is going to be good. And I also think that we're also going to get quite a few third-party games. Why do I think we're going to get a lot of third-party games on the Nintendo Switch? Well, first of all, the one reason I think we're going to get third-party games on the Switch is because people are looking at the sales numbers, and the sales numbers are up on the Nintendo Switch for the first time in a while, since the Wii, the original Wii, not the Wii U. The sales of it are fantastic. So people want to support a console that does have a good fan base, and they know a lot of people are supporting it. And right now, a lot of people are supporting the Nintendo Switch, and that's even going to go farther when you actually go into the holiday. Once the holiday season goes out for the Switch, oh my god, I think it's even going to blow up even bigger, because we got games like Skyrim, Xenoblade 2, Super Mario Odyssey. Especially Super Mario Odyssey is going to make this thing blow up. And if people haven't even got their hands on it already, they're going to want this thing even more, just because we already have Breath of the Wild, which is amazing, and then Super Mario Odyssey. People are definitely going to want to Switch. So having a good fan base is a good reason to actually support it. But another reason why companies may want to support the Switch, I think, is because if you didn't know something, the Wii U was actually, I heard this from a lot of companies complaining that the Wii U was actually a console that was actually hard to port games for. So for instance, if a company made games for the PS4 or the Xbox One or even PC, it took them a lot of time to actually downscale it, to actually port it. I actually heard that the encoding and the software and just building games for the Wii U was not the best experience, whereas the Switch, on the other hand, I heard companies can easily port games to the Nintendo Switch, and it's very easy to port games to the Nintendo Switch. And I know for a factor on the Switch, I can't say for the Wii U itself, but I can say for the Switch, the good news is the Switch is capable of running one of the current systems out there. Not systems. I'm kind of like stumbling on my words. I'm trying to say one of the current engines. There you go. It does support the Unreal Engine. I don't know if it supports Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 3. I actually think that it might run Unreal Engine 4. I might be wrong about this, but I want to say it runs Unreal Engine 4. It doesn't run it at max settings or ultimate settings or anything crazy like that. It'll probably run them at like medium settings, but it's nice that it can run a current gen thing like that, the Unreal Engine, which is pretty nice. And a lot of games still rely on the Unreal Engine, which is pretty nice. So if it can't support the Unreal Engine, it's going to make it much more easier for people to put games on the Nintendo Switch. And there's also rumors out there too that these are just rumors out there, but this means that companies are trying their hardest to port games to the Nintendo Switch. Actually, I keep hearing rumors on the internet that we're going to get games like Final Fantasy 15 that came out last year. If we were to get Final Fantasy 15 running on the Switch, that would be amazing. And then I also heard that we might be getting Dragon Ball Z Fighters or Dragon Ball Z Fighter Z, however you want to pronounce that game. I heard that may be coming to the Switch. So you can see right now, this is a good home for third-party titles. It looks like finally we are getting third-party titles. The only downside to all this good news is it'll depend on how the community reacts to it. What I mean by that is it'll depend on how many people actually care about third-party support on the Nintendo Switch. It'll only thrive on sales. So if companies see these bad sales, then companies are not going to care. I just hope also companies take it to I just hope companies, when they actually port games to the Nintendo Switch, they try to make them as less watered down as possible. That's always been some kind of a problem with the Nintendo consoles when it got third-party support. It always seemed like they were cutting out features. We weren't getting DLC. We weren't getting things like that to the Nintendo Switch versions. I remember, I think a long time ago, some of the sports games didn't get all the same modes and all the same features. And Call of Duty only got the base stuff. They never got the DLCs and some of the older Call of Duties. Because yes, if you didn't know this, Call of Duty was back on the Wii and even the Wii U and even some of their handhelds like the DS. So that was great, but they didn't get any DLC. They didn't really get any support and things like that. So they didn't care. So hopefully these games coming to the Nintendo Switch get a lot of support and people buy them. But I think people are going to buy these games for the Nintendo Switch just because, well, it does have the hybrid thing. Like I said, again, that's a big feature that Nintendo does have, whereas in past systems, it was just an inferior version and nothing could make up for an inferior version. Wouldn't you want a better version of the game? Well, technically you're not getting a better version here with the Switch, but you are getting twice as much for your money. So say you pay $60 for a game on the Switch compared to the other one. Sure, you're getting an inferior version, but you have two versions in one. You have one you can play on the TV, and then you also have one that you can take on the go, which I think is going to be a big factor. So I think Nintendo actually might be hitting it out of the park. So this is good news for third-party support. Again, don't get your hopes up. Nintendo's still not going to be home for third-party support. If you want true third-party games, you're probably going to have to look for PC, Xbox, PlayStation. This will never be the home for true third-party support. And of course, there'll be those companies out there that do not want to port for the Nintendo Switch no matter what, unfortunately, which is kind of a downside. But it looks like it's looking up for the Nintendo Switch, especially third-party support. Anyway, guys, peace out. I'll see you guys later in my next episode. I'm out, guys.